You've been waiting all week for that Saturday show. Tune in, see what happened, let your troubles go. Work real hard, now it's time to take it slow. Kick back and relax with that Saturday show.
Good morning, Albuquerque. Welcome back to that Saturday show. Another Saturday in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And even though we're experiencing a tiny little pause in that wonderful spring weather that I've been waiting for so long, we'll get past it and we'll keep going and we're going to have a wonderful summer. Well, Georgia is still on my mind. And voter suppression efforts are raging across this country like wildfire. But I'm left with a couple of burning questions. Where is the community outrage? We should all be out in the streets. We should all be heading towards these red states that are doing everything they can to suppress the vote. We need to be doing that. And I'm especially concerned, where is the Albuquerque black community when it comes to expressing outrage? Oh yeah, we've got a lot to deal with given the George Floyd murder trial, the murder of Daunte Wright just down the road from Minneapolis, and the uniformed lieutenant in Virginia. We've got to see some justice wherever we go. And then I just heard that there's a young man who is guilty of walking while black in some North Carolina town. Fortunately, they arrested the U.S. Army sergeant who was harassing this young man for walking in his own neighborhood. We've got to send the message that these kinds of things will not be tolerated, and we've got to push back in every way we can. But where are those voices? Where are they? I'm looking for you. I'm listening for you. Joining me today, we're doing something really exciting and different. So joining me today for this and other discussions are two of that Saturday show's dynamic crew. We've got with us our writer, Audie Couch, and our sound tech, Dar Diaz.
Hello.
Welcome to both of you. We're going to be free-flowing here. We'll have a good time with this discussion, and let's just weigh in on some things. So let's start locally here in New Mexico, and let's talk about the fact that finally the marijuana legislation got signed, and even though it doesn't go into effect until next April, we're already expecting to see some exciting improvements in the economy and in the attitudes of people if they're going to be able to smoke a little bit more and relax a little bit more. What do you guys think? Welcome.
Thank you. So I agree that the legalization of marijuana and this recent signing is going to be great for our economy as a whole, because the money generated from legalizing marijuana will help benefit schools, will benefit the productions of around New Mexico, will help fund numerous reconstruction sites and maybe changing some buildings and building some more buildings and helping our economy altogether, right? And I also think it'll be great for the individuals because people will no longer have to stress about smoking a little marijuana at home when they strictly do it just to maybe go to sleep at night, maybe to help out from a stressful day. You know, maybe they had a lot to deal with during the day.
Sure.
You know, and they have to come home and maybe just take a little puff
Just
or two.
relax.
And because we all know stress kills.
Oh, yes.
Right. So, and it has been proven, people that smoke marijuana, their stress levels go down, and that's positive and has great benefits in numerous ways, I would say.
Exactly.
What do you think, Dar?
Yeah, I mean, we already have a model for this, right, of it working, you know, through Colorado, places like Washington. So the question remains, why did it take so long? You know, why are we saying finally? The benefits have been long established. I have a friend that hopefully next week we'll talk about some of the medicinal side of benefits from marijuana. And so yeah, finally, why so long?
Right.
I full disclosure, I have to tell you, a couple of years ago, my other half and I drove up to Colorado for a weekend to get our IKEA fix. We need IKEA down here. Maybe we should start a campaign to bring IKEA to this part of the country. We really need one here. And between Santa Fe and the suburbs in Albuquerque, we've probably got 1 million people. So let's see if we can get an IKEA down here. But anyway, I was up in Colorado, in Denver, and we stopped at a marijuana dispensary. And while I'm sitting in the truck waiting, I noticed a guy rolled up on his bicycle and just parked it out in front. Didn't chain it up or anything. He parked it out in front and went into the dispensary and was in there for probably a good 20 minutes or so. Guess what? Nobody came along to steal his bicycle. And I could only conclude that people are too relaxed, too happy,
Having a good time out there.
too comfortable to worry about stealing somebody's bike. I had a good laugh on that, and that image has stuck with me for a while. So, walking while black in North Carolina.
Again.
Again, yes, because this has
Ad
happened
nauseum.
before. You're driving while black, you're walking while black, you're purchasing some groceries in a store while black. What the hell is going on that now you've got a white army sergeant harassing a young black man who's just walking through the neighborhood? Didn't this all start with Trayvon Martin walking through a neighborhood? Remember that? Mm-hmm. Here we go again with the same kind of crap. I'm so glad that nothing happened to this young man other than the fact that he was verbally brutalized, verbally harassed. But, what's going on?
It's just, as I always say, things have changed, but they haven't changed that much, especially with the hatred, with the ignorance. You got to think of it more as they went in dormant. It's dormant. They went into hiding. You know what I mean? After the Civil War, after it never went away. Such ignorance never went away. So it was wrong, no doubt. It was wrong. But am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised. It's something that I think, being African American, being mixed, whatever, you have to deal with. You have to deal with it a lot, on a daily basis. It's part of your reality. It's something that you live. It's you go out of the house thinking, well, maybe I should avoid walking around this certain neighbor. Maybe I should avoid getting on this certain transportation. Maybe I should. Mm-hmm. Like I said, things haven't changed that much, especially when I consider my younger brother. They haven't changed that much when I have to tell him, be safe.
That's right.
Stay away from the police officers, because you never know which one you're going to get. Now, there are good cops. I'm not saying all cops are bad. I'm not saying all Caucasian people are bad, because that's not true. It's just, be careful. You could have someone Native American, you could have someone that's African American. It doesn't matter. It just takes one thing for them to see or think about you that they don't like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's all it takes.
So
that's all it takes. We got about 15 minutes left in this segment. Dari, got anything you want to add to that?
Just as the audience started out to say, that's, for a person of color, that's something you walk out the door with, right? That's on your mind every second of your consciousness. Gotcha. Thinking about, how is this person going to, how are they going to accept my presence? How is my very presence, never mind what I say or how I look at them, gonna affect how they interact with me, right? And that's just a reality, right? Mm-hmm. Just to touch on what you were saying earlier about where's the rage? In a way, I kind of get it, right? After the year that we just went through, people are burned out, man. They are. I mean, I feel it. I wasn't that involved as I would have liked to have been with with the protests and stuff, but as involved as I was, I got burned out. And I got burned out on the riot porn.
Right.
to be honest, just watching this stuff, and now I do my best to keep up with, like, I do the Cliff Notes version, but I can't watch that stuff anymore all the time. I just, because it affects me, and it hits too close to home. It starts to dampen that light of hope. That things can get better.
It's a lot.
And so, I get it when people, they want to save their energy maybe for the bigger battle, or maybe they just want to, like, step back and not do that anymore.
Well, we
It's
can't
hard.
step back too long, because
I hear that too. I hear
this
it.
stuff is continuing, and if we don't get out there, it's going to get even worse. I understand, and God knows I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm tired.
It's tiring.
I'd love to sit down and do absolutely nothing. I'm worn out. But, James Baldwin said to be black and live in America is to live in a constant state of rage. And I think that's where we are, but we all handle it and express it in different ways. So your point is well taken.
And I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
You can't just give up. I mean, where would we be if Martin just gave up?
Exactly.
Or if people gave up on Board of Education versus Brown.
Well said. Whew. All right, let's lift this a little bit. Hassani, help us. It's time for Good News.
Good morning and welcome to Good News. I'm your correspondent, Hassani Olujimi, and I'm Gugu for Good News. Now, the goal of this segment is to inspire and uplift you, the viewer, with nothing but good news. Let's jump right in. Our first story reads like this. Affordable housing landlord starts eviction fund and is shocked by raising $9 million to keep 3,000 families in their homes. In response to the demand for social services, Marjorie launched her own 501c3 nonprofit named Star C. They provide free on-site services to families living in affordable apartment communities. Star C has now since become a godsend to these families in need. Star C launched an ambitious $50,000 GoFundMe campaign for eviction relief. And the response completely shocked Marjorie when she realized she raised nearly $50,000. Adding icing to the cake, the local municipal government of Cobb County found out about Star C's relief fund and quickly voted to donate $1.5 million of their federal stimulus funding. Other municipalities like Fulton County followed as well. Star C has now raised over $9 million from governments and foundations, giving the ability to help over 3,000 families avoid eviction. Almost 100 families have elevated from renting to home ownership because landlords like Margie kept their rents low so families could save their money. After COVID-19 struck, many of Marjorie's tenants were laid off from their jobs, which made the need even greater. And more good news came when the 2021 federal relief package, which has provided another $4.1 million so they can give even more assistance. Margie says this: if tenants and their children are stable in their community, it's a win-win for everyone, including the tenant, the child, the landlord, and the local schools. Congratulations, Marjorie, and those of you in Atlanta helping the Eviction Relief Fund. That is so neat and so necessary. Thank you. Now, our next story goes a little bit like this. You want to hear it? You got no choice. You're watching the TV show. An electrician comes to repair lights for 72-year-old, then enlists the entire community to fix her crumbling house, you guessed it, for free. Like many elderly Americans, Gloria Scott lives on a limited income, and sometimes that means making hard decisions. If money is tight, home repairs and other maintenance are often the first things to fall by the wayside. When Gloria's overhead light fixture went out, she decided living in the dark would not do. Though she knew her budget would take a hit, she called an electrician named John Kinney to make the necessary repairs. Kinney set up a nice old lady needs help Facebook page to solicit other tradespeople to lend a hand as well, and the enthusiastic response was overwhelming. See, John was deeply troubled by the extreme state of disrepair of Gloria's home, and he just couldn't let this woman's desperate need not be taken care of. The project was a success. Kenny decided to take it to the next level, naming the initiative Gloria's Gladiators. His hope is to inspire a legion of like-minded, kind hearts and electricians to help needy seniors in their communities. Now, isn't that good news? Yay, John. Thank you so much for what you're doing. We sure do need that assistance in the neighborhood. Get in where you fit in, everyone. You might not be able to sew, or you might not be able to build something, but what you can do can truly make someone's heart happy and put a smile on their face. And the best thing that you could do is to give them hope. That's awesome. Well, I want to give you over to my new friend, Little Big Mama. She'd like to tell you a little story. That's what she told me. You can never guess with Little Big Mama. So take it away, Little Big Mama.
Well, thank you, Hassani. I want to share with you a story about my grandson that happened yesterday, since the kids are going back to school. Well, the teacher asked the class a question. She asked, is there anybody in here that think they're stupid? I want you to stand up. Nobody stood up, he said. So she said, I'm sure that there's some stupid kids in this classroom. So my grandson stood up. And the teacher asked him, Johnny, you think you stupid? He says, oh no, I just feel bad that you standing all alone. I'm gonna go take a time out. Back to you, baby.
Thank you, Little Big Mama. As we always say here at Good News News, the best way to turn a frown upside down is to get goo-goo for good news. I'm your correspondent, Hassani Olujimi, special guest, Little Big Mama. And we'll see you right here on That Saturday Show with more good news.
I am a fan of Little Big Mama, and I'm going to be looking forward to that week after week here. Thank you so much for that, Hassani. So, the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice. We are so privileged that we have the opportunity to come to you week after week with this TV show. Thank you, Public Access Cable, Comcast Cable. Thank you, City of Albuquerque, for the opportunity. Thank you, YouTube, for streaming after we do this broadcast on Saturdays, and we invite you all to check us. If you've got Comcast, you can get us on channel 27. If you don't, you can always go to YouTube and get us. But the Center for Peace and Justice has a lot to offer, and it's manifested in the presence of people like those we have working here today as part of our crew. And again, I just want to reintroduce Audie Couch and Dar Diaz, who have joined the crew. And just share with us for a few minutes now what your experience has been like here on the oldest running TV show on public access cable in Albuquerque. Yeah.
Sure. Well, personally, for me, it's been a great experience. I've had a chance to challenge myself in writing, my writing skills, because it can be quite intense with the different subjects, different types of writing, because I might do a lot of script writing, dialogue writing, or something that I call project or subject writing, where I write about a specific thing, whether it be gay pride, whether it be a social injustice, whether it be an environmental issue. it challenges me, and it helps me to be really creative. I like to be really creative with my writing, and that this is the perfect environment for that.
You're very creative.
For the show,
Yeah.
and you have to be. I mean, because we talk about so many different things, and it keeps me on my toes. So, and I love to write, so that's it. It's even better.
And we're glad to have you. And your work is so incredible. It really is.
Well,
so
thank
we're
you.
fortunate.
Thank
Dara,
you.
what's your experience been like?
Like I was that kid in high school that it was building his own set of speakers in wood shop. So sound has always been like my thing, and that came from a background in music. I'm a former violinist, and so music was something that what got me through high school. It got me through some tough times as a kid. And recently I got re-involved with the Peace Center, and thank you to you, Jim. You gave me the opportunity. This show was going on, and this show, seeing this show on YouTube, is partly what sort of motivated me to get contact the Peace Center. And then you told me about this show and where it's done, and the opportunity to learn more about sound, which is something that I'd always wanted to do. I'd always been a listener and a music maker, but I'd never had the opportunity to do like sound boarding or sound engineering. The closest was I used to be a wedding DJ, but that's sort of limited in some ways compared to at least to what the kind of production on this level, on a studio level. And so now I'm getting the opportunity to learn that, which has been a long time coming for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning experience, huh? But a good one. Right?
A good one, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Definitely. I've learned a lot as well. I have to say, since Dar brought it up, the learning experience is phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, speaking of learning experiences, one of the things that we're looking at here on That Saturday Show is the opportunity to continue to expand. We've got a youth segment coming up, for example, that they have produced all on their own. And so we are looking to continue to open up opportunities. We want people to come in and begin to intern with us, from this front desk all the way back to the control room, and the writing that happens in between, and the sound that happens during a production. We want to begin to give people an opportunity to come and learn what it is to produce a TV show. Good things can happen when you begin to learn these skills. They can take you in some really remarkable directions. And so we've got that door open. So if you're watching this show and you know of someone who's interested in TV production, who wants to sit at this desk where I am, or who wants to learn writing like Audie does, or wants to learn sound, or learn the editing, any of those things, come on and just get in touch with us. Give us a call at 505-268-9557. That's the Peace and Justice Center's telephone number. Give us a call, and we'll be happy to have you as part of the show. We really would. Now, coming up, we've got an exciting segment that's prepared for you by our youth. And April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So we've got a short segment for you that they did on their own, and congratulations to them. Siobhan Watson, our youth leader, take it away.
This month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I am gathered with 7 beautiful people here today to talk about this subject. Before we start, I would like to address that this is a safe space to talk about a serious topic. For some who are survivors, witnesses, or educators, we create this space to share and to understand and accept one another. Now, as I call your first name, I would like you to share your full name, occupation, and pronouns. I'll go first. My name is Siobhan Watson. I am currently attending the University of New Mexico with a double major of Sociology and Africana Studies. I am a youth ambassador of the MLK Commission. I am newly elected ASUNM Senator of 2021 and the youth manager of That Saturday Show. Also the founder of So Visionary by Studio C, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Okay, Amaya.
Hi, I'm Amaya Ryan. I'm an educational assistant at an elementary school, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Thank you, Amaya. Miliana.
My name is Miliana Smith. I go to University of New Mexico, and I'm majoring in sociology, and my pronouns are she, her.
Okay, thank you for joining today. Now let's get to business. I'm going to share some data from the Media Education Foundation. 1 in 6 women and 1 in 33 men will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. College-age women are 4 times more likely to be sexually assaulted. Every 2 minutes, someone in the US is being assaulted. Sexual assault is one of the most underreported crimes, with 60% left unreported. Factoring in unreported rapes, only 6% of rapists will ever spend a day in jail. 73% sexually assaults are perpetrated by non-strangers. 90% of survivors in college campuses know their attackers. 4 in 10 rapes take place in the victim's home. 2 in 10 rapes take place in the home of a friend, neighbor, or relative. My first question is, what things are women taught to do before they go outside to protect themselves from being raped? Create a list. What does the list tell us about the expectation of men's behavior? In what ways is this limiting?
So women were basically taught like not to wear anything that's too provocative. We're like told not to go out at certain times alone, not to be in certain places after certain times, stuff like that. And all this does is basically tell us that we can't live a free life safely, and it doesn't eliminate the problem because like sexual assault and things like that have been going on for centuries, and it doesn't matter what a woman's wearing, it doesn't matter where a woman is, or like anyone, like sexual assault shouldn't take place, and we shouldn't be training the victims to eliminate the problem when we should be changing the culture in general and making sure that the people that are committing these crimes against others are the ones that are being policed and the ones that are being told no, in that like they need to change and not us. Like I can wear what I want to wear, be where I want to be because I'm a grown woman and that is my right as a woman and that shouldn't be policed.
Right.
I want to I agree with everything she said, but I kind of want to add that in high school or like throughout even middle school, girls are told more of what to wear than the boys are, and I think starting that at like a really young age kind of reflects the behavior of the boy to think that the problem is what the girl is wearing and not the real problem of sexual assault just being wrong in general. So I think high school is coming up with dress code that's more strict towards females is like this is like a basic like foundation of it all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. When we say no to engage in an activity that we do not want to participate in, no means no. What are some other phrases that means no as well?
I don't want to. I'm not comfortable. Like I'd rather not, or let's do something else. Like basically anything that's not a yes means no. Like yeah.
Yeah, I think silence is also a no. Like even definitely just saying like being like I don't know, like unsure, like uneasy about it. I think a guy like kind of would notice like if you're kind of off and like not like feeling it, so like he should take that as a no.
Right. Cool. And what are some other reasons people don't report their assaults?
I think a lot of it, one, the culture surrounding sexual assault and rape and things like that is very victim heavy. It's whether we're believed or not, things like that. So I think just the fear of being judged and not believed, and then also kind of the trauma of reporting it and then going through a process in which no justice is served. It's just very discouraging. And then also, I think a lot of women and a lot of victims of sexual assault don't know in that moment how to even respond. It could take days, weeks, or even years to process what happened to you. So I think that there's like a cultural thing about it, but also like a physical and mental and emotional thing that just kind of prevents people from coming forward.
Awesome. Thank you.
I agree with everything she said. I also think that, some don't want to report and then wait forever and years later a trial happens maybe because, that time between trial and reporting it could be really like harsh on someone's mental health. And I also think that a lot of us know, like especially in Albuquerque, I think that most of the times the cases aren't even looked at, aren't even touched. And I think that a lot of women out here are aware of that, so they probably see no point in reporting it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And the last question is date rape real? And if so, explain.
Definitely. I think a lot of times it happens because by saying yes to one thing, I feel like a lot of perpetrators think that that means yes to everything. And so it's the kind of like there's this obligation, like I bought you food, now you owe me this, or I just treated you to this, so now you can treat me to this. And it's just like, I think that that often leads to it. And I think that date rape is one of the most like overlooked and underserved forms of sexual assault, because a lot of times, like I said, people assume that, okay, she consented to this, so that should mean that she's consenting to everything else that comes with it. And I think that's like the scariest part about date rape is how oftentimes your yes to one thing people perceive as your yes to everything.
Right. I totally agree. And people think that it's okay just because they are dating, but without the consent, it's definitely real. Date rape is definitely real. Liliana?
I also think most of the time, when guys like ask you to hang out or whatever it is that they say, and most of the time I feel it's like with the intentions that you're gonna say yes to everything, or that's what you're going or you're wanting to go there and do. And so I think that a lot of that leads to it, and I think it's just like a lot of miscommunication, or like just the guy assuming, that one girl might have said yes to it, but like not everyone like is there for that.
Right. I am joined here with Serena Roberts. Do you want to introduce yourself and your occupation?
Yes, I am actually Serena Williams.
Congratulations, you just got married.
Yes. I currently I am a stay-at-home mom, but I drive for Lyft part-time as well. So that's it.
Awesome. I'm glad that you are here with me today. Let's just get straight into it. Do you want to share your story from start to finish and how you overcame, and if you could encourage like other women about their stories too?
My story, I have a few stories. So I don't just have, one incident or anything like that. My story begins when I was 4. At 4 years old, I was sexually molested and raped by 2 of the sons of the woman, or the woman that was babysitting me. It happened more than once. At that time, I was in preschool, and so we were learning things about, good touch and things like that. And so I knew it was wrong. So I told my mom. She talked to the woman who was babysitting me, and the woman who was babysitting me said her sons weren't even home that day. So it pretty much got brushed under the rug, which I know happens, especially in the Black community. In the Black community, it happens in the Black churches. It gets swept under the rug. So we pretty much just let that go. Nothing ever happened. I never went to counseling for it, never talked to anybody. And I think it was at that point that I kind of just accepted that was not normal. I don't want to say it was normal, but it was just something that I was going to have to live with, that nobody was going to care if that happened to me. And so if it ever happened again, I just deal with it, So I was around when I was like maybe 4 to 6, till I started school. Once I started school, it did stop for a little while. I was in school, so my mom wasn't taking me to any babysitters. She was single, so there weren't any men around. But when I turned 8, my mother met her husband, and maybe it wasn't long. I would say no more than 6 months after they met, he began grooming me. He would buy me things. He would, have me sit on his lap, and just things that most people would find like a normal father-daughter relationship, which I now know was grooming. And so after they got married, is when the actual abuse started. And my mother was working a government job at the time, and she was working the graveyard shift. And so I was left home alone all night by myself with him. And so that continued for, I was 8, so probably about 4 years. My brother was born about the 3rd year in. I think I was 11 when he was born. And I was scared that my stepfather was going to begin abusing him. So at that point, I told my mom what was going on. She went to our pastor at the time. Of course, was, a Black pastor in a Black church. And instead of going to the authorities, of course, she went to the pastor.
Right.
She told him what I had told her. Well, no, let me back up. Actually, she told my aunt first, my Aunt Doe, who was kind of estranged from the family, and kind of asked her, what she thought she should do. My aunt told her that I was probably lying because I didn't like my stepfather. So the first time I told my mom, it just kind of got, brushed off. I told her again. It could have been more than a few months later. And at that time, she went to the pastor. The pastor said he believed her, but that it didn't need to leave the house. Like, nobody outside of our home needed to know what was going on. It was a family matter. And so we did counseling sessions with the pastor, all 3 of us. So it wasn't, nobody sat with me by myself and talked to me about what was happening. All 3 of us went and sat down together, which, at 11 years old, you're not going to be very comfortable in a room talking with your perpetrator, your mother, and your pastor about something like this.
Right.
Yeah. So, we did that for a few months, and then, he was healed. Of course, according to the pastor, he was healed. So there was never any police reports. Nobody ever thought to remove me from the home or anything like that. So, of course, during these counseling sessions, it was still continuing. I remember vividly one time, my stepfather was a pastor as well.
Mm-hmm.
He had just started a church out where we lived.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had our own church building. And I remember one day before the counseling session, he took me to the church building and molested me right before we went to counseling, where he said he was better.
Wow.
And of course, I wasn't going to say anything because we're all sitting there, So that continued on for about another year. He gradually started threatening my brother, saying, because obviously he knew I had told somebody. So he said, if you tell anybody, I'll kill him, I'll kill your brother. And I had cried years to have a sibling. It was just me. I wanted my brother. I loved my brother more than anything. And so I was scared. But I think him threatening my brother is actually what made me stronger. Because once he started actually threatening my brother, I knew I had to get out of that situation and get my brother out of that situation. Mm-hmm. And so I told the two people that I knew would do whatever they had to get us out. And that was my other aunt and my grandmother. Mm-hmm. They actually drove from Las Cruces the day I told them and came and got me and my brother and took us to Las Cruces. They didn't even ask my mother. I took my brother, left the house, and they came and got us.
How old were you at the time, you and your brother?
I was 12.
And
I was 12 at the time. He was maybe 1.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if he was even 1 yet. Yeah.
Wow.
So we were in Las Cruces for a few months. My mom went to court and all this and finally got us taken from our family, and we got brought back here and put in foster home. So instead of, being with family, she wanted us to be in a foster home. So we got brought back here, got put in a foster home. The foster home wasn't sexually abusive, but they were verbally, physically abusive. They didn't feed us. Wow. At 12 years old, I was required to go to school, clean the house, feed my brother, take care of him, do all of his laundry and stuff instead of, being a child. So it wasn't much better. So I told them that I lied and I wanted to go back home. Wow. One of the requirements, though, for my mom to back home, but one of the requirements for my mom to get us back was that she separated, or that my stepfather wasn't in the home at the time. Because they felt that something had happened, but that I just wanted to go home. So, that was the requirement. So we moved out, got our own place. And by that time I had already been, traumatized by it. I had already been changed. I was not ever going to be the same. Mm-hmm. So I was, running away. I never really got into drugs, but I became, started becoming very promiscuous. Granted, I was still only like 12. And yeah, so that's that part. Mm-hmm. And I think from there on out, I just lost the will to say no. Mm-hmm. There were situations that I was in, So, there were situations that I was in where I did not want to have sex. I did not want to be intimate with somebody, but I think it was the fear of being forced and the fear of nobody really caring if I said no, that I just stopped. I just figured they were going to do whatever they wanted. I might as well just get it over with and, move on. That continued for quite a few years. I had Tasha when I was 15. And I know, it affects people differently. Some women will say that it, turned them away from the thought of men. Some women will say that it, made them fearful of any kind of intimacy. For me, it did the opposite. I think I was constantly looking for a sense of true intimacy, because it had always been just, I was being used for whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I was always looking for somebody that actually cared. And so I was out there for a few years. I met my ex-husband. Well, and during this time too, I was raped twice, forcibly raped, to the point where I said no, crying. Yeah, so I finally met my ex-husband when I was 20. And he was abusive, verbally, physically, and it even got to the point where he became sexually abusive. I was not allowed to tell him no. I had to do what he wanted, when he wanted, where he wanted. And, I was married to him for almost 10 years. Wow. That continued the whole time. And 3 years ago, so we got divorced about 10 years, almost 10 years ago, about 9 years ago. 3 years ago, I was on my way to pick up a friend. He needed a ride somewhere. Somebody that I've known for a while. I showed up, waited in my car, and he said, well, I'm not ready yet. Do you want to just come inside and wait? It was hot. I didn't have air conditioner in my vehicle. So I was like, fine, I'll go inside. I knew who he was. Mm-hmm. And he had roommates. And so I was like, most of the time, if I'm not, super close with a male, I won't go anywhere alone, but there was other people in the house. So I went in the house to wait for him, and he comes downstairs with a towel on. And I'm like, okay, stop being weird. Just get ready. We need to go. Well, he proceeded to rape me that day. Wow. His roommates were upstairs. I could hear them talking. I'm pretty sure they could hear me. But nobody seemed to care. And so that pretty much sums up my story. Yeah.
So you said that you were being sexually abusive in the relationship. A lot of people don't think that date rape is real. Do you want to elaborate why date rape is a thing and how come people don't believe in it?
So, I think people feel that date rape isn't real because, you go on a date expecting something. You should be expecting to, have sex. You should be expecting to be intimate. Why would you go on a date with somebody if you're not expecting that, And I think that's the attitude. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that I experienced date rape per se, but I did experience marriage rape, So I went into a marriage, and yes, you go into a marriage expecting to be intimate with your spouse. Mm-hmm. But even though you're married, you still have a right to say no.
Right.
And so, I definitely do think that those are similar. Mm-hmm. I agree that it is real. It's definitely real, and it's unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. And before like these traumatic events, you said that you weren't like capable of saying no. What are other phrases that means no?
You know, you don't even have to say a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Pushing somebody off, you know, trying to pull away from somebody,
Right.
shaking your head no. Those are all ways of saying no. Saying stop, I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of ways to say no. The word no does not actually have to come out for you to mean no.
Right.
Yeah.
So, from your story, you're literally a survivor, and I'm very proud of you because that's a story. That's a life that I'm just proud of you. But what are some encouraging words to say to others who are going through this, who are scared to speak up about their story, who thinks kind of similar to you, if I were to speak up, no one's going to believe me, everyone's going to think that I'm lying, which that's a real thing, and especially in college campuses too, because they think that it's real, that you had consent and you're fine. But what's advice and encouraging words to give to these females and males?
I'm glad you said that because a lot of males won't speak up. You know, it happens to men more often than we think.
Right.
I think first off, you know, they have to know it's not their fault.
Mm-hmm.
That nothing, absolutely nothing they did warranted this happening. You know, I don't care how they dressed. I don't care if they were drinking. I don't care if, I mean, you can be walking down Central butt naked and nobody has a right to touch you unless you want them to.
Right.
So that it took me a long time to realize that it was not my fault. And as far as nobody believing you, somebody's going to believe you. Somebody's going to believe you. And it may not be the first person you tell. It may not be the first 5 people you tell, but keep telling your story because someday somebody's going to listen and somebody's going to believe you. And it's so important for those girls who feel that nobody's going to listen and nobody's going to believe. It's so important for those of us who are comfortable and are okay telling our stories now to tell our stories so those girls can feel like, okay, I'm not the only one. It's okay to tell my story. It's okay to know that it's not my fault. It's okay. It's not okay that I went through this, but it's okay that I survived this and it doesn't make me a bad person, you know? So I think just getting the courage to tell our stories is going to help all those other women who are afraid to say anything.
And what are some things that women are taught to do before they go outside to protect themselves from being raped or sexually assaulted?
Sorry, I have a hard time with that because, you know, just you shouldn't have to protect yourself.
Right.
You know, I mean, you should just be able to walk outside and not, you know, fear that something's going to happen and people are going to say, oh, well, you know, she shouldn't have done that or she should have protected herself better, you know, and I hate that we have to think that way. You know, but some things that I was taught was, you know, always tell somebody where I'm going. I should never, you know, especially at night, if I'm alone, somebody should always know where I'm going, who I'm with. You know, I was told to dress appropriately, don't wear anything that's too revealing. You know, have pepper spray, mace, things like that with me. Be aware of my surroundings at all times. You know, if I'm getting in my car, make sure I'm looking around to see who's around. You know, don't go with strangers. You know, don't accept drinks from anybody that you don't know. So things like that are things that I was always told to do.
Yeah, it's very like heartbreaking that like women are taught to like not show revealing clothes, like don't wear a crop top. I'm like, why can't I wear what I want to wear? Like, I don't know. It's very demoralizing. But I believe those are all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for participating in this segment.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Watson, thank you very much. I really appreciate this presentation today. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, but sexual assault awareness should be something on our minds for the entire year, year in and year out, day in and day out. We've got to do something. My hat's off to the women who shared today, their strength, their resilience, their ability to share their stories, as traumatic as they have been. Men, in particular, power and control doesn't belong in your behavior. It doesn't. No one should get a pass. Let's be clear about that. No one should get a pass. We've got to work harder on prevention and education. And I just wonder, why don't we see some citywide campaigns, particularly during this month, to do more around education and prevention, to keep people aware of what's happening with sexual assault? Our show's winding down for the day, but I want to extend special thanks to the team here at Studio 519 for all of the support and the work that they provide. It makes all the difference in the quality of programming. It makes all the difference in how we feel welcome, how we feel like we can bring these important stories, commentary, and entertainment to you. And we just thank you, the viewers, for tuning in week after week for That Saturday Show, where we bring you light, love, information, education, entertainment, and in coming weeks we're going to bring you lots of important, informative discussions around all kinds of exciting topics. Mother's Day is coming up, and we've got a show for you when Mother's Day hits. We're going to let you know. So, with that, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on That Saturday Show. I'm Jim Harvey, your host.
Until the next time, it's time to say goodbye. When you out here in the streets, keep it real, 505. We love everybody, we just want to let you know. Thanks for tuning in to That Saturday Show.